This year, the City of Atlanta made history, electing 4 members of the City Council who are openly part of the LGBTQ community. Liliana Bakhtiari, Keisha Waits, Alex Wan, and Matt Westmoreland now represent 1 in 4 of the Council's 16 members. Malik Brown, the director of the Mayor's Division of LGBTQ Affairs, sat down recently with each of them to discuss the impact of this important moment.
When you were first elected, you were the first openly gay man and the only LGBTQ person at the time. What does it feel like today, coming into a council chamber of 3 other LGBTQ people? How does that feel?
I feel like all the work that I've done over the last it's 3 decades now. No, but seriously, in the LGBTQ community, has been around just championing all the principles and values that we've been trying to champion around equality. To have all 4 of us on here means that that work is starting to pay off, and that voices that are so critical to our process, voices in our community that have not been heard and have not been given the opportunity to express themselves and be part of the dialogue, are now part of the dialogue.
So when I look at your resume, particularly around nonprofits, there's a particular focus on youth. Can you tell me why you're so passionate about youth?
I just really appreciate and fundamentally believe that they're our future. I also feel like they are so much more receptive. They are open-minded, they are curious. Let's take advantage of that. Let's tap into that and show them that anything is possible.
Good morning, Councilmember Bakhtiari. You are in your freshman term as a council member. Can you tell us how that feels?
I'm still getting used to it. When people say council member instead of Liliana, that's still very confusing and surreal, but I love it. It's chaotic, which my past prepped me for. This is where childhood trauma comes into play in like a positive way. It makes you really good at functioning in chaotic environments. But suddenly having the ability to have resources and be connected to people who can like move mountains in the city is a tremendous privilege, and it's really exciting. With
this recent inauguration, we swore in 4 openly LGBTQ people. Can you tell us how that feels?
Well, it's really nice to have people who understand it and who understand the challenges, and also now it's more of a discussion with our straight colleagues who all seem very eager to be the best allies they can be. So getting to talk about that, also getting to talk about my own non-binary and gender fluid status, and I'm growing into that. I'm going to be going through a lot of changes over the next few years. And having this caucus on council makes me feel much safer doing so, because not a lot of people understand that identities are stackable. Not a lot of other people understand gender fluidity or feeling in between or struggles with gender dysphoria. So 1, it makes me feel seen and makes me feel safe to talk about it. But at the same time, it also is an opportunity to have these conversations in this environment and from this platform and make it something that's more commonplace and make people understand that this is like anybody has the possibility, no matter your identity, to hold a position like this. So we get to make this conversation more mainstream, which makes a lot of other kids feel seen.
Can you tell us the change in the state and the city that you've seen as far as tolerance and accepting and even just where the LGBTQ community is versus when you started your service?
One of the changes that come to mind for me probably is when you look at our pride. I believe we probably have one of the largest pride celebrations in the country. And I've seen that grow over the years. And one of the things that I always talked about on the campaign trail is that my understanding of the needs and issues of the LGBTQ community don't come from reading the paper. I don't go to Pride to campaign. I celebrate Pride. I am Pride. And so it's a little bit different. And frankly, it's just seeing the evolution, having friends who were not as open-minded, having parents who were in fact homophobic, and watching them evolve over the years and their level of tolerance and the healing that's taken place in my family, I think is important. I have 2 siblings that are out. and open LGBTQ members. I had a brother that I lost several years ago in 1991 to the virus. And so hospital work is very dear and personal to someone like me. And so again, I get to wake up every day and live my truth and frankly to do work that I really care about. And so that's exciting.
You've touched on this, and especially in 2022, we talk a lot about intersectional identities. Can you talk about the intersection of being a Black woman and a member of the LGBTQ community and how that shows up in your work?
The way that I describe that is that I am no stranger to alienation. I am no stranger to being underestimated and overlooked. And so as a triple minority, being a woman, first being an African-American woman, and then certainly, having the tag of the stigma for some, being LGBTQ is tough. And that's not an easy walk.
So on the eve of your inauguration, you came out. It was shocking to some people and I think heartwarming to most. Can you talk about what that felt like in that process and how it's been since?
Honestly, I wrestled with that decision. The fact that the content was so personal, the desire to live in a world where such pronouncements aren't necessary, fear that people would look at who I chose to be with and that would somehow impact how they viewed me or my public service. But honestly, part of what drove me to do it was looking at students, like the ones I had taught at Carver or the ones across Atlanta who maybe have ever struggled themselves with being authentic and real and truthful, either with themselves or with others. And if my public statements can help them in whatever they might be struggling with, I thought that was something that I definitely wanted to do.
So there was something that you said in your coming out statement that to the effect of you hope to live in a world where people don't have to do this anymore. Can you just build on that and tell me what you meant?
I hope we one day live in a world where people don't really look twice at two guys as they're holding hands, just as hopefully they won't look twice at an interracial couple doing the same thing. We're not there yet. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. I'm living into and coming into a world that's very different than it was for people 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'm very fortunate about that. And I think we'll keep making progress.
This is Councilmember Amir Faroqi, Chair of the City Council's Transportation Committee, and welcoming you all to the Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Transportation Committee. I hope everyone's week is going well. We have a pretty full legislative agenda today. no robust reports, but we will be with each other for a bit. But before we get going, I would like to ask our legislative research and policy analyst, David Johnson, to do a roll call of members present.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Amir Faroki.
Here.
Councilmember Jason Dozier. Present. Councilmember Antonio Lewis.
Present.
Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet.
Present.
Councilmember Keisha Shawn Waits.
Present.
Councilmember Alex Wan.
Present.
Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And Councilmember Westmoreland informed me a few minutes ago he'll be about 10 minutes late to our meeting, so he'll be joining us in good stead. Our next item is item C, a remote meeting statement. Do you mind reading that into the record?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This Transportation Committee is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with OCGA 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting by dialing 404-902-5066, conference ID 151945, which was noted on the February 25th, 2022 Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantaga.gov, the Council's YouTube channel, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via @ATL Council. Our presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council's Transportation Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on February 25th, 2021 via atlantacityga.iqm2.com. In addition, the public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6059 between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. the day before this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute your phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to the committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our next item is to adopt the agenda. I will move to do so. Can I get a second? 1 second. Thank you, Mr. Wan. Please open the vote. Mr. Johnson.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Wait is aye.
The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Our next item is item number E on the agenda, approval of the minutes. I will move to approve them. Can I get a second?
Second by Waits.
Thank you, Ms. Waits. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Our next item is public comments. Item number F on the agenda. If you could please play the public comment that has been submitted. I believe we have just a shade over 8 minutes of public comment today.
Yes, one moment.
Hello, I'm Tanya Beasley, and I live on Baker Road, and I'm concerned about the speeding on Baker Road that happens consistently. Now that we have additional stop signs, people are not stopping for the stop signs, they're riding right through them. Children play and walk on the street because we don't have sidewalks, so it would really be helpful to have the sidewalks, and it would be helpful to have more speed control on Baker Road. Thank you.
Greetings, Transportation Committee members and staff. A special greetings to you citizens of Atlanta who have tuned in. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. I have a comments about 2 items of legislation on the agenda and some announcements about citywide opportunities for citizen engagement on community transportation committees. There is a single-parent mother of 2 who no child will appreciate 22-0-1171 and those stop signs at Harbin Road and Wright Drive. There are a number of citizens who will no doubt take a liking to 22-R-3199 and the feasibility study about possible fare free transit for residents within our city. Many opportunities exist for citizens to become involved in transportation committees in Atlanta. To become involved in the Transportation Committee for Neighborhood Planning Unit R, call 402-979-6787. For Neighborhood Planning Unit R Transportation Committee, call 402-979-6787. To become involved in the Transportation Committee of the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board or any Transportation Committee of other neighborhood planning units, call the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board at 404-827-8011. That's 404-827-8011. To become involved in the newly formed Transportation Committee of the Public Policy Application and Information Network, also known as PAIN, one may call 404-232-9065. That's 404-232-9065. Many thanks to all who are interested in any aspect of transportation.
This is Natalie Hall, Fulton County Commissioner of District 4. There is a need in the community on Baker Road Northwest. It needs sidewalks. On Baker Road Northwest feeds into high injury network at HE Homes and DLH. Children walk to and from school on Baker Road in the street because there are no sidewalks. There's speeding issues, and due to speeding, Baker Road Northwest needs to be a part of Vision Zero, which will require speed not to exceed 25 miles per hour. Thank you so much, and thank you to the Atlanta City Council for always making the right decisions for our community. This is Natalie Hall, your Fulton County Commissioner.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad. I am a soulful spiritual being having a human experience. I have no more love for religion, a patriarchal society, as we have with the leadership of the City Hall Committee for Transportation. 2017, to be exact. I have legislation that was passed by the full council, and Mr. Martin was very influential in getting legislation to say that Button Road would be micro service. And yet today, Button Road in the southwest district level, even as Mr. Andre Dixon was the committee chairman, had promised that he would get that work done. And it has not got done yet. I've been talking about this for the last year, even as he decided to run for mayor. And I ask you members of this committee, why aren't you being transparent, honest, and trustworthy? We have no need in the 21st century for the perpetuation of lies mixed up with truth. I live on the borderline of Tail Road and the new South Fulton City, and they have already paved Button Road from County Line going southwest all the way across capital, the largest concentration of darker people in the city of Georgia, Atlanta. And some of the most miseducated Negroes anywhere in the state works in the city hall of the Atlanta University. Some of the bigger churches, but they're wanting to speak up for the homeless, speak up for the women and children that don't have affordable housing. And even as I asked the Transportation Committee to have someone to get our work did on Button Road for over a year. Why? Why should we continue to vote in the state of Georgia, in the capital, for numbers that look like myself and don't do, or hear to the words you say? I am Brother Anthony Muhammad, Matriarch Hotel, Assalamu alaikum. Listen, look.
My name is Gwen, T-W-E-N, last name Lee. I live on Baker Road near Center Hill Avenue. Something needs to be done about our traffic on Baker Road. Our traffic is as if this is the highway. The cars speed and go through the stop signs, and they do the turnarounds in the street late at night. We need some kind of traffic control. Please look into this matter. I'm Gwen Lee on Baker Road. Thank you. Hello, I'm a resident of the Center Hill community. I am calling in regards to the lack of pedestrian safety on Baker Road. We do not have sidewalks. Our residents are forced to walk in the streets. In the street, we have children who catch the bus and have to wait in the street, walk in the street, who are let off from the bus and then have to walk home in the street. It's an extremely unsafe situation. We would like for our councilmen to help us with advocating for sidewalks. We are connected to a thoroughfare that is widely known to be unsafe, and that's H.E. Homes, which then connects to Donnelly Howell. So we are seeking you all's help in regards to pedestrian safety on Baker Road Northwest. Thank you.
Terrific. That concludes our public comment this morning. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I want to thank the members of the public who called in quickly to speak up about concerns about Baker Road. We'll ask HODOT to address it when they're before us next. I think I'd speak for the entire committee, which is maybe precarious to do, but I would say that we're all laser focused on pedestrian safety. I know Councilor Overstreet and I have long championed, I guess 4 years championed, much more attention on sidewalks, and Baker Street likely deserves the same attention. So we'll make sure that DOT is addresses that before our body shortly. Our next item on the agenda is item G, presentations and reports. On the agenda, it has the Danforth Road Pedestrian Safety Plan update. However, I've asked HODOT to submit a written report to the committee and to convene with Councilmember Overstreet, who represents the Danforth Road corridor, because this is a fairly district-specific reflection, and they have said they would do so. I have not yet received the report. I don't think the committee has either. So we'll hopefully get that from DOT soon. And Councilmember Overstreet, if for some reason they don't connect with you, let us know, and we'll make sure they do so publicly here. But I thought that was best done one-on-one with you. The next item is we have two public hearings today, two separate ones that we'll have to enter into, come out of, and enter into again to address two ordinances. So if you look at your agenda item H, item number 1 under item H, we will tackle 22-1088, but to do so, we'll need to enter into a public hearing. Could I get a motion and a second to...
Mr. Chair, can I sound the caption for the public?
Yes, please do, Mr. Johnson.
Item number 1, 22-1088, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to abandon portions of public street known as Niles Avenue, consisting of approximately 0.37 acres lying and being in land lot 189 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia, being more specifically described in the attached Exhibit A to West Midtown Acquisition Company, LLC, authorizing the mayor as designee to execute a quitclaim deed for such abandoned right-of-way and for other purposes.
Thank you. So again, we'll need to enter into a public hearing to address this item.
To enter public hearing.
Thank you, Councilman Juan. And thank you. I was going to say welcome to Councilman Westmoreland. He's announced his presence with a second. Please open the vote.
One moment.
Lewis, yes.
The vote is open.
Waits, aye. Overstreet, yes. Affirmative, knocked off, but getting back connected. Thanks.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is open.
We do not have any public comment submitted for this public hearing, so I will now turn to Ms. Cotina Alexander from the Department of Transportation to discuss this item.
This is Cotina Alexander, Atlanta Department of Transportation. The abandonment of Niles Avenue would allow West Midtown Acquisition Company to redevelop the surrounding park properties with a master plan mixed-use development, including a data center, office, commercial, and residential facilities. We have reviewed all the company documents and are okay with moving this abandonment forward.
Terrific. Before we vote, we'll close the public hearing.
One motion to close the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Can I get a second?
Overstreet, second.
Thank you, Mr. Overstreet. Please open the vote, Mr. Johnson.
One moment. Will everyone please vote?
Waits is aye.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Great. I will now move to approve this item. Can I get a second?
Second.
One second.
I heard Ms. Wade start in first, and I will recognize her second. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Overstreet, affirmative.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Could you read in item number 2, Mr. Johnson, before we enter public hearings?
Yes. Item number 2, 220-1089, an ordinance by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to abandon portions of a public street known as Reynolds Street, consisting of approximately 0.25 acres, lying and being in land lot 189 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia, being more specifically described in the attached Exhibit A to West Midtown Acquisition Company, LLC, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a quitclaim deed for such abandoned right-of-way and for other purposes.
I will move to open public hearing. Can I get a second?
One second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Waits is aye. Overstreet, affirmative.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is open.
Right. We have no public comment submitted for this item. I will turn now to Ms. Alexander from DOT to discuss it.
Christina Alexander, Atlanta Department of Transportation. The abandonment of Reynolds Street will accompany the abandonment of Now Street, the street I previously spoke about. Both of these streets are being asked to be abandoned by the West Midtown Acquisition Company. Both of these streets run east of Herman Street, and both of these streets are dead-end streets. The West Midtown Acquisition Company do own all parcels that abut both of these streets. We have reviewed this application and all the company documents and are okay with moving the legislation for abandonment.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. I close the public hearing. Juan. Thank you, Mr. Juan. I will second that. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Wait, it's aye.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The public hearing is now closed.
And I'll now move to approve 22-0-1089. Can I get a second?
Second by Waits.
Thank you, Ms. Waits. Please open the vote.
One moment. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Terrific. We'll now move to item I on the agenda of communications. We have one today, 22C5026. Mr. Johnson, would you like to read that in, and we'll hear from the auditors?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 3, 22C5026, a communication from Daniel Hampton, Chair Audit Committee, submitting the Performance Audit Report, Department of Aviation Facilities Management, Staffing and Scheduling.
Great. I believe Ms. Stephanie Jackson and Lindsay Kuhn are with us today. Are they on the line?
Council members. Good morning, council members and staff. This is Stephanie Jackson, Deputy City Auditor. We're here to present this audit, and on the line with me is the Audit Supervisor, Myra Hagley, and Lindsay Kuhn, Senior Auditor. Lindsay will be presenting the audit and will answer any questions after the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, council members. My name is Lindsay Kuhn. Thank you, Stephanie, for introducing us. We undertook this audit because a previous risk assessment identified potential staffing issues in the Department of Aviation's Facilities Management Division. In a 2019 investigation of the division and a 2018 audit of city department's overtime spending, we found evidence of unfair overtime allocation, inconsistent compliance with commercial driver's license medical card regulations, and an increase in citywide overtime spending. This audit on the Department of Aviation Facilities Management, Staffing and Scheduling serves as a follow-up to overtime and licensure recommendations. The Facilities Management Division is responsible for ensuring the maintenance and repair of buildings, roadways, runways, taxiways, lighting facilities, landscaping, and drainage systems within the airport. Next slide, please. And that will be slide 2, objectives. Our objectives were to review whether facilities management, staffing, and scheduling models and controls support workload needs. The audit includes facilities management procedures, staffing, and workload between January 2019 to June 2021. Our scope primarily covers technical staff in the division, which are the airside, landside, inventory, and fleet staff. Our audit methods included: we interviewed division management and staff to understand policies, procedures, and practices. We observed crews to understand the scope of various maintenance activities. We reviewed whether staff possessed required licenses and certifications. We compared fleet staffing and resources between facilities management and Department of Watershed Management. We benchmarked the city's facilities maintenance staffing to other large airports. We researched best practices for aviation maintenance, including staffing, preventive maintenance, and work order management. And we analyzed the department's overtime usage and staff compensation. Next slide, please. And that is slide 3. On slide 3, you will see Exhibit 2 on page 13 of the report. The division comprised 4 business units during our audit: airside, landside, and asset management, facilities, and administration. The majority of staff were in the airside and landside units. During our audit, airside staff maintained the runways, taxiways, cargo areas, lights, pavement, grass areas, and fence lines in the area between the airport security fence to the airfield. Landside and asset management staff maintained the areas outside of the security fence to the perimeter of the airport, including beautification, fence repair, waste management, and building management. These employees also oversaw airport needs, including asset life cycles and the division's work order management system, Maximo. The facilities unit managed small construction tasks that are too extensive for landside and airside staff, but too small to obtain a general contractor. Administration included payroll, fleet, and inventory staff. Our audit did not cover the facilities unit or payroll, as these staff mainly support leased buildings and administrative functions. Airside, landside, and stockroom staff were grouped into crews that work on a shift schedule. The division used an 8-hour shift with 3 shifts per day to ensure 24-hour coverage at the airport, and most crews followed a staggered weekend schedule. Next slide, please. Facilities management has used Maximo for work order management since 2007, although staff told us that much of the historical data is limited because data fields were not mandatory. During our audit, the division was upgrading the system and cleaning historical data with assistance from 2 consultants. Facilities management staff described their 3 primary work order types as, number 1, routine maintenance, which are public works type activities like pressure washing, street sweeping, and waste management. Number 2, corrective maintenance, which are repair requests from any aviation department stakeholder. And number 3, preventive maintenance, which are scheduled maintenance activities to reduce the need for corrective work orders. Additional work order types used less frequently include training, responding to emergencies, escorting contractors in restricted areas, special projects, events, and staff meetings. Next slide, please. This next slide summarizes our findings, which I will detail on future slides. Facilities management lacked a clear management strategy for resource allocation. As a result, the division was unable to confirm whether current staffing and scheduling meet workload needs. The division's salary structure presented hiring barriers. We identified evidence of salary compression. The division created a career progression plan and tiered salary structure for fiscal year 2022, which raised the salary midpoints for most positions to exceed the market median. Next slide, please. This next slide shows Exhibit 8 from page 23 of the report. The division used 8 work management systems and methods. Facilities management lacked a strategy to coordinate among its work management methods, which are shown on the table in this slide. The systems were not integrated with Maximo, and staff had to enter updates manually. The division handled most scheduling outside of the system, and some processes were paper-based. As a result, facilities management's workload information was incomplete and inaccurate. The division's work order management system, Maximo, did not contain a record of all work. Without this data, the division could not assess current staffing against operational needs. Next slide, please. Facilities management lacked necessary information to make operational decisions. When work was recorded in Maximo, it was incomplete and inaccurate. Nearly all of the more than 48,000 work orders recorded between January 1st and June 30th, 2019 were missing a completed status. Though data capture has improved since the division increased the number of mandatory data fields. We also found several potential indicators of both adequate and inadequate staffing levels. However, these are inconclusive without a workload analysis. Between November 2020 and August 2021, there were 125 instances where 55 employees earned over the proposed maximum threshold for overtime, which poses safety and effectiveness concerns. We also compared facilities management to other comparable airports as determined by the size of the airport. We found that Atlanta had at least 100 fewer facilities management type staff than the other airports that responded. Atlanta also had a passenger to staff ratio 4 times higher than the median of the other airports. However, Atlanta had only about half the median acreage of the other airports. On the other hand, the division's turnover was lower than median annual turnover reported by the Society for Human Resources Management. Next slide, please. Stronger controls are needed to track licenses and certifications. The graph graphic on this slide is Exhibit 13 from page 34 of the report. Staff credentials were not centralized or maintained. We found that 17% of technical staff lacked at least one required certification or license. Federal regulations require the Airfield Movement Area License and EPA refrigerant and forklift certifications for applicable individuals, which are listed in the second column. The commercial driver's license is required for the city's vehicle use policy. We also found that the division lacked clear guidance around who must hold a commercial driver's license and did not have an effective process to monitor whether drivers have suspended licenses. We found one employee out of 10 with a suspended license in our review of one crew's July 2021 credential report. However, staff said no employees had a suspended license. Staff lacking credentials can constrain work, especially when credentialed staff leave. Next slide, please. The salary structure presented hiring barriers. The graphic on this slide is Exhibit 14 from page 36 of the report. The division salary structure presented hiring barriers. We identified evidence of salary compression. As of March 2021, the median hourly wage for regular facilities maintenance mechanics was $1.08 higher than the median wage of more senior mechanic positions. The department hired 23 maintenance mechanics between 2019 and 2020 at more than $17.45 per hour, which is more than the minimum wage for a senior mechanic. Salary compression can result in employee disgruntlement, perceptions of inequity, and low morale. We found evidence of citywide compression in our 2015 compensation audit and are reiterating our recommendation from that audit. We also found that 52% of technical staff earned less than the market median wage for their positions as of March 25th, 2021, as shown by the graphic on this slide. However, the division created a career progression plan and tiered salary structure for fiscal year 2022, and this raised the salary midpoints for most of these positions to exceed the market median. Next slide, please. We have 10 recommendations. Number 1, we recommend that the Chief Information Officer review the business case that AIM completed in 2018 to evaluate work order management systems for facilities management. If the case is no longer viable, we recommend the Facilities Management Assistant General Manager, or AGM, prepare an updated business case. Number 2, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM ensure that one system has a record of all maintenance work orders by integrating auxiliary work systems and applications as possible. Number 3, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM create a strategy for using each system, document procedures, and establish a process for reconciling these systems for reporting. Number 4, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM identify specific information needed for decision-making and modify existing reports if needed. Next slide, please. Number 5, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM require that data in the work order management system is entered timely and accurately, including a process to check for duplicates, develop a performance metric for system input, and define roles and responsibilities for system use, data entry, and supervisory review. Number 6, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM implement an overtime policy that establishes maximum hours in a day and pay period, and establish overtime controls and a review process to ensure employee safety. Number 7, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM develop a centralized credential tracking method, including establishing a process for checking and handling suspended licenses. Next slide, please. Number 8, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM create and enforce a training program with requirements by position and deadlines, such as seasonal requirements for inclement weather. Number 9, we recommend that the Facilities Management AGM assess incumbent salaries before hiring new employees to prevent potential salary compression as the department fills its vacant positions. Number 10, we reiterate our 2015 compensation audit recommendation to the Commissioner of Human Resources to annually review compensation within salary grades across all departments and report the findings to City Council prior to the annual budget proposal. The Facilities Management AGM agreed with 7 of their 8 recommendations and partially agreed with recommendation number 6, which was to implement an overtime policy that establishes maximum hours in a day and pay period and establishes overtime controls and a review process to ensure employee safety. The division responded that the facilities management AGM will review the draft overtime policy and make necessary changes to ensure accuracy of information. Upon approval of a final draft, the overtime policy will be adopted and communicated throughout the Facilities Management Bureau for use by all divisions. The Facilities Management Bureau will establish adequate internal controls to monitor overtime usage. The Chief Information Officer and Commissioner of Human Resources both agreed to their recommendations respectively. Next slide, please. To see the full report, please go to the website link listed. Thank you for your time and consideration during this presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Kuhn, for the presentation, as well as Ms. Jackson and other audit staff on the call. It sounds like the key takeaway here is that the facilities management staff is understaffed and perhaps overworked, and that there's some salary compression issues. You mentioned the 10 recommendations toward the end of your report and reaction to them from the responsible parties. Were there any recommendations that were made that have yet to receive a response from the responsible party that we need to be aware of?
Thank you for your question, Council Member. Just to reiterate the findings of our audit, so we were unable to conclude whether or not there was understaffing because there was no data. The data in the Maximo system was incomplete and inaccurate, so we could not fully assess whether or not staffing levels met work needs. So most of our recommendations focused on improving the data so that facilities management could assess whether or not there are issues of understaffing and overwork. To address your actual question, we did receive responses from all of the people that we made recommendations to for each of the recommendations.
Great. Before I turn to my colleagues for any questions, I will note for the public and for the body that the Department of Aviation will be before us for their quarterly report on Wednesday, March 30th, so at the end of this month. And if any members feel appropriate, we can raise some issues with them when they're before us then. Are there any members who would like to speak? I see one speaker. Councilmember Juan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I mean, I would like to hear from the department now if there's someone on the line from aviation just to affirm their response to see while this is all fresh on our minds.
I believe Mr. Smith is with us today, Michael Smith from Aviation. Are you with us, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. This is Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager. On behalf of the department, I want to thank the audit department for their work on it. As they indicated, we did receive a report and we have agreed with the recommendations. A lot of those recommendations we've started or implementing. As you noted, one of the key takeaways, of course, is that the multitude of systems that we have reporting data. And so we were working with IT to maximize that and use Maximo as the primary indicator and adding particular modules so that all of that information that we're receiving from the multiple sources are in one place. Noted about auditors that some of the work orders didn't show that they were completed. However, it wasn't that the work was not done. It's just a recording thing. One of the key takeaways I want to make sure everybody takes away is that the airport is operating safely and securely. We undergo, several inspections by FAA, and in fact, our annual Part 139 inspection is scheduled to begin next week. It'll be a week-long inspection that will include about 3 inspectors. Normally, FAA sends about 1 inspector per airport because of our size and business. We have 3. Also, it's noted that the FAA's regional and district offices are located right in College Park. So those individuals that inspect airports are on our airport quite a bit. So again, I want to stress that we're taking care of that. Also, we've, as noted, addressing the compression and salary issues, and encouraging and working with HR to make sure that we are, satisfying those requirements for our employees. I believe that take care of most of the issues. It was noted that also policies on training and policies on credentialing, as well as overtime policies are being in place. Want to note that since Mr. Beardori has taken over, he's stressed that we're a data-driven organization, and so we're working with IT to make sure that all of our departments and divisions are utilizing technology and those resources as best we can.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for your thorough response. Any additional questions from members of the committee? And barring none, I will move to accept and file the report. Could I get a second?
1 second.
Thank you, Councilmember Juan. Please open the vote, Mr. Johnson.
The vote is open.
Waits is aye.
Lewis, aye.
7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is accepted and filed.
We will now move to our regular agenda, starting with item J, ordinances for second reading. I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson to read in a caption and tackle the items we have before us today.
Mr. Chair, if there's no objection from the committee, we can take items number 4 and 5 together as a block.
No objection.
Item number 4, 22-01119, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to create the Airport CRRSA Act Grant Under Project 500101 in the city's Oracle financial system to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations the proceeds of the Federal Aviation Administration Grant Agreement 3-13-8-125-2021 in the amount of $11,459,547.0 for the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act grant and for other purposes. Item number 5, 22-01120, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to create the Airport CRRSA Act Grant Under Project 500102 in the city's Oracle financial system to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget by adding to anticipation and appropriations the proceeds of the Federal Aviation Administration Grant Agreement 3-13-8-126-2021 in the amount of $75,842,496.0 for the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act grant and for other purposes.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Smith, would you like to speak to these items?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager. As you know, back in December 2020, Congress enacted the CRISP Act, and we were allocated $87.3 million under that act. The $11.5 million was specific as to concessions, and the $75.8 million allocated for reimbursement operating and other debt service type payments. These two papers just place for accounting purposes these two amounts in separate Oracle accounts.
Terrific. I will move to approve. Could I get a second?
Second, Dozier.
Second. Second by Councilmember Dozier. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Waits is aye.
Lewis, how do you vote?
Lewis, yes.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. These items are found favorable. Mr. Chair, if there's no objection with the committee, can I take items number 6 and 7 together as a block?
No objection.
Item number 6, 22-01121, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend the FY 2022 Renewal and Extension Fund Aviation Encumbrance Program 2019B AMT GARBs and 2019C PFC non-AMT bond fund budgets by transferring to and from appropriations a total amount of $77,104,602.00 for reimbursement of the Aviation Encumbrance Program and for other purposes. Item number 7, 22-01122, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend the FY 2022 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund, Airport Passenger Facility Charge Fund, Airport Customer Facility Charge Fund, 2019A non-AMT GARBs, 2019B AMT GARBs, 2019C PFC non-AMT bond fund, and 2019D PFC AMT bond fund budgets by transferring to and from appropriations a total amount of $28,137,676.00 for reimbursement of the Airport Renewal and Extension Fund and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith, would you like to speak to these items?
Yes, again, Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager. Item number 6, 22-01121, basically allows us to reimburse the Aviation's Encumbrance Program for specific projects which were funded. And now we are able to use our renewal and extension funds to replenish that. Those projects include things such as the airside modernization, our South Security checkpoint expansion, as well as the demolition of certain facilities that were necessary to build the T-North extension. Item 7, 22-01122, is again a reimbursement paper. This one, however, reimburses our R&E fund by utilization of CFCs or customer facility bonds in the amount of $28,137,000. And some of those projects, again, go into the encumbrance program reimbursement for the rental car relocation, the landside modernization, and certain airfield projects. And we ask for approval on those two.
Juan, motion to approve both.
Can I get a second? Lewis, second. Motion by Juan, second by Lewis. Please open the vote, Mr. Johnson.
One moment. The vote is open.
Wait to the mic.
Will everyone please vote? Councilmember Westmoreland, how do you vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable. Mr. Chair, at the request of the department, can we take items number 8 and 23 together?
24. Yes, please do.
24.
It's 24.
Item number 8, 22-01123, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to amend the FY 2022 Airport Renewal and Extension Fund budget by adding to anticipation and appropriations grant funds in the amount of $355,750.48 from the Atlanta Regional Commission for the purpose of increasing the use of primary commute alternatives to employers in designated areas of the airport area and for other purposes. Item number 24. 3, 22R 3238, a resolution by Transportation Committee supplementing a task order fund in the amount not to exceed $355,750.48 for the use under SC 9165 Facilities, Asset Management, and Sustainability Services at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport with Haley and Aldrich and Jacobson Daniels, a joint venture on a task order basis. All services will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith?
Again, Deputy General Manager Michael Smith. This paper allows us to accept the $365,750.48 from ARC for a grant to utilize for our Commute Alternatives program. This is part of one of the projects under our sustainability program that we've had in place since 2015. It encourages the use of transit and also carpooling and van pooling services. The will be administered by the department, and we're utilizing our task order with Haley Aldrich to implement this grant program.
I will move to approve. Can I get a second?
1 second.
Thank you, Mr. Wan. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
1 moment. The vote is open.
Wait, it's aye.
Lewis is aye.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. These items are found favorable. That takes us to item number 9, 22-0-1124, an ordinance by Transportation Committee to authorize the mayor or his designee in accordance with Section 2-1163, subsection C of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to ratify services rendered in connection with contract FC 10311, architectural and engineering services for the Cycle Atlanta 1.0 improvement project with WSP USA Inc. on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to authorize the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal option number 2 for a term of 1 year, retroactively effective September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022, with no additional funding required and for other purposes.
Okay, I believe Ms. Jessica Fulton is here to speak to this item. Ms. Fulton, are you with us today?
Good morning. This is Jessica Fulton, ATL DOT. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. This legislation will allow us to enter into our renewal option 2 for our contract with WSP. They are providing design services for our Cycle Atlanta 1.0 improvements project. This will allow us to complete this design and move this project to procurement. We're in support of this legislation.
Thank you, Ms. Fulton. I will move to approve. Can I get a second? Oh, Mr. Wan, I believe you do have a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Fulton, I wanted to ask about the expiration of the original renewal option that makes this a retroactive action all the way back to September 1st. That's a pretty significant amount of time. So can someone just kind of explain to me what happened and what's being done to prevent that from happening again?
Yes, it actually did not come to our attention that this one was expired until we had to issue a change order for the project, and that's what brought it to our attention. We have since worked with our contract administrator to identify the end dates for all of our contracts so that we will not have to do retroactive legislation.
Thank you. And just to clarify, you said that this paper does not add any additional funding, so I'm assuming that change order action also did not result in any additional funding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fulton. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my question.
Thank you. Motion by Faruqi, second by Juan. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Wait, says aye.
Lewis, yes.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Mr. Chair, item number 10 needs to be substituted. Can I get a motion to bring forth the substitute? To read the substitute?
So moved.
Substitute.
1 second.
The vote is open.
Wait, says aye.
Will everyone please vote? Councilmember Lewis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Seven yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you. The substitute corrects the caption and it also removes section 13884D in the caption and the second resolve clause in the legislation. Item number 10, 22-0-1166, an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis as substituted by Transportation Committee, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to install traffic calming devices on Ferguson Road southwest from Springdale Road southwest to Langston Drive southwest and for other purposes.
I will move to approve, barring no questions from the body. Ms. Alexander, do you want to speak to this? Apologies.
Alexander, Department of Transportation, a normal traffic calming paper. We would like to, that it says speed tables, and we want to just say traffic calming devices in case we find other measures other than speed tables that can be used as traffic calming measures.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. My motion to approve stands. Can I get a second?
Second by Waits.
Thank you, Ms. Waits. Please open the vote, Mr. Johnson.
One moment. The vote is open. Will everyone please vote?
Lewis, yes.
Seven yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute. Mr. Chair, can we amend number 11 and we can take items 11 through 15 together as a block?
Yes,
I can read the caption and it doesn't change the caption. Item number 11, 22-0-1169, an ordinance by Councilmembers Andre L. Boone, Dustin Hillis, authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersections of Baker Ridge Drive Northwest and Duffield Drive Northwest a freeway stop control intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. And we can have a motion.
Move to amend from 1.
Second by Faruqi. Please open the vote.
Lewis is yes.
Waits is aye.
Seven yeas, 0 nays. The amendment has been approved. Just want to note that the amendment adds the missing whereas clause in the legislation, which reads, whereas the installation of freeway stop at Baker Ridge Drive Northwest and Duffield Drive Northwest will provide a safer crossing for pedestrians to meet the needs of the community and address traffic safety concerns. And I can read the remaining captions from 12 to 15. Item number 12, 22-0-1170, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersections of Boulevard Granada Southwest and Boulevard Fontaine Southwest a four-way stop control intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. Item number 13, 22-0-1171, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Harbin Road Northwest, Harbin Road Southwest, and Wright Drive Southwest a three-way stop control intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. Item number 14, 22-0-1172, an ordinance by Council members Jason H. Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersections of Meade Street Southeast and Park Avenue Southeast a three-way stop control intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes. And lastly, item number 15, 22-0-1173, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee to make the intersection of Atlanta Avenue Southeast and Fraser Street Southeast an all-way stop control intersection, to authorize the Atlanta Department of Transportation to install stop signs at the intersection and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Alexander, do you have any reflections on these 4 or 5 papers?
Cotina Alexander, Atlanta Department of Transportation. These are all always stop papers. Most of the intersections are residential streets intersecting with residential streets, with the exception of 2. All of them do have some type of sight distance issue at the intersection, so we are in favor of moving these papers forward.
Terrific. Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second on these items?
Juan, move approval on all papers listed.
Overstreet, second.
Thank you both. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. Motion by Juan, second by Overstreet.
The vote is open.
Lewis is yes.
Wait is aye.
Seven yeas. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. These items are found favorable. Item number 16, 22-0-1174, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston to amend Chapter 150, Article 10, Section 403 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to add a minimum age for users of an age verification requirement for operators of shareable dockless mobility devices and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We are going to hold this paper at the request of both Councilmember Winston and DOT, but I believe Mr. Nagy from DOT is with us today to speak to it before we take action on it. Mr. Nagy, are you with us? And if not, I'm comfortable going ahead and moving to hold, as the author of the paper has requested that we do so. So I'll go ahead and motion to hold. Second by Juan. Please open the vote to hold.
The vote is open.
Wait is aye.
Will everyone please vote?
This is
Lewis, aye.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held. Item number 17, 22-0-1177. An ordinance by Councilmember Jason H. Winston to correct ordinance number 22-0-1021 adopted by Atlanta City Council on January 18, 2022, and approved by the operation of the law on January 27, 2022, on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation for the purpose of correcting omitted trust fund account information not included in ordinance 22-0-1021 and for other purposes.
So I believe Ms. Fulton is here to speak to this item. Ms. Fulton, are you still with us today?
Good morning. This is a corrective of the location where this funding is actually going to be going. So we are in support of the legislation.
Thank you so much. I will move to approve. Can I get a second?
Second by Waits.
Thank you, Ms. Waits. Please open the vote, Mr. Johnson.
One moment, the vote is open.
Yeah.
Vote. Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. This takes us to Section J, Resolutions, item number 18, 22R3199, a resolution by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond requesting the Department of Finance to partner with MARTA to conduct an analysis to determine the feasibility of allowing Atlanta residents access to fare, free public transit within the city limits of Atlanta and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, this item needs to be amended. The amendment extends the reporting deadline to be given by the Department of Finance from 90 days to 120 days.
I will move to amend as stated, or motion to amend as stated. Can I get a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland. Please open the vote on the motion to amend.
The vote is open.
Melissa, yes.
Waits is aye.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The amendment has been approved.
Terrific. I will now move to approve. Could I get a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
And Mr. Wan, I've noticed you hit your speaker button. The vote is open and will likely close, but do you want to speak to this item?
I'd like to, yes, I would. I'm curious, when is our next MARTA presentation? And I just wonder, before just moving this through, I mean, I kind of would like to hear from them as well as the finance department to see, get an initial sniff test as to the feasibility of this. And if 120 days is even enough time to do that, I think this is far more complicated than we might even begin to imagine, because of, verification of residency and all that, and, kind of the MARTA extends past the city of Atlanta limits. So I'm just wondering if we have solicited or even gotten any initial feedback from them, if any finance or MARTA folks are on the line, or if we just need to kind of wait until we get a chance to have them before us to vet this.
So I will say, Mr. Wan, two notes that may, shape your response to this. So one is that this is dual referred, so we'll come to SEC next, where you could feasibly hold it there. The second is MARTA will be before us on March 30th. So again, another 3 or 4 weeks or so before they'll be before us. So that's a good chunk of time, and they're not on today's call. So I think your points are well made, and it's worth pausing to reflect as to whether the feasibility study itself is feasible in the time articulated.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also, speaking as one committee chair to another, I'm feel like we need to have kind of the policy conversation in this committee before we throw it into the financial conversation and finance committee. And I feel like we haven't even done that with this particular paper before just sending it on. Again, once it comes to my committee, we can certainly talk about the financial ramifications of it. But to a certain degree, it's not really us per se, except through I don't know that it actually financially impacts the city because the ridership fares and all that go to MARTA. So I just feel like we're rushing into this one, folks. And if folks are comfortable with this moving forward, then I suppose but I will say for this council member, I'm not, and actually would appreciate this committee taking the time to have the policy conversation before lobbying it over to finance.
Councilor Wan, I appreciate your reticence. I share it. We have a vote that's open, and I see Councilor Westmoreland, you'll be up next year. And I presume procedurally, because the vote is open, we need to finish the vote. Depending on the nature of the vote, we can then either reconsider or if the vote fails, I assume we can then move to hold it.
Mr. Chair, I do believe we can still, while the motion is on the table, we still are allowed to deliberate on the motion and hear from other council members. Is that not correct?
Yes, 100%. But I believe the vote is physically open on everyone's screens. And if not, then great. We'll continue. But Mr. Westmoreland, go ahead, and the floor is yours, and we'll figure out procedurally how to proceed.
Yeah, a quick comment. The last time I talked to folks at MARTA about the possibility of free fares as it related to going to the State Farm Arena to vote in 2020, they told me that it's against state law for them to make their rides free. So it'll be a short feasibility study, and I'm happy to turn my second into a substitute motion to hold so we can have that conversation here with the appropriate people at the right time.
Juan, I will motion to hold.
Mr. Wan has seconded that motion. Please open the vote on a substitute motion to hold.
Moment. The vote is open.
Waits is aye.
Lewis, aye.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held. Item number 19, 22R 3234. A resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation to enter into amendment number 6 or contract number FC 8783-86 program management term with Atkins North America, Inc. to add additional funding in the amount not to exceed $3,625,000.00 and to extend the term of the contract on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 6 months and for other purposes.
Ms. Fulton, are you with us to speak to item number 19?
Yes. Good morning, Jessica Fulton, ATL-DOT. This legislation will allow us to continue program management services being provided by Atkins North America. Atkins provides key services to the department, including project management services, estimating, scheduling, and construction services in support of the infrastructure bond, T-SPLOS program, and other needs of the department. We support this legislation moving forward.
Excellent. Could I get a motion and a second from the body?
Second by Waite.
Motion from Juan if you don't already have one.
Perfect. Motion by Juan, second by Waite. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Will everyone please vote? Councilmember Lewis, how do you vote?
Yes.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 20, 22R 3235. A resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an assignment and assumption agreement for cooperative agreement FC 10513B, citywide intersection signal detection with Unix LLC on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation and for other purposes.
Ms. Fulton, are you still with us?
Yes, good morning. Jessica Fulton, ATLDOT. This contract for citywide signals is with Siemens Mobility, and Siemens Mobility is merging with Unix LLC and will now operate under that name. This legislation will allow us to update the company name in our contract.
Thank you, Ms. Fulton. I guess my question here is one that is probably on the minds of many Atlantans, because I believe this agreement goes for a whole set of intersection signal technology, including synchronizing traffic lights. Can you just briefly describe the original contract and its length and time and its scope?
Yes, the original contract was to provide intersection detection signals at various intersections throughout the city. It allowed us to update some of these intersections from the traditional loops to cameras, which made the timing of the traffic signals more accurate and allowed greater supervision on our behalf. Siemens has been, I do not know the exact length of time this contract has been going. I can pull that information for you and provide it. But Siemens has been performing this contract for us now, and they've been doing a very good job at it, and we're looking forward to continuing the project and taking it to completion.
Sure, I'll follow up with a question which may necessitate a later update from DOT. So from what I understand, this contract is for technology that allows the intersection to respond, or at least the signals to respond to when someone approaches the intersection. So, for example, if I pull up at a traffic light intersection at 11 o'clock at night and no one's around, I'm not going to sit for 45 seconds while the timing loop works its way through. It'll recognize that my vehicle is there and then change the lights, assuming no one else is coming in the other direction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you know how many intersections? I guess what I'd like to know is, I feel like there's very few intersections in the city that are that have this detection, whereas you see them at almost every intersection in the suburbs. And I'm just kind of curious if the department could report to us which intersections have been transitioned to have signal or this detection next time you report. It's not urgent, but I'm curious how many intersections have been changed over and where they are.
Yes, we can provide that information.
Okay, terrific. I will move to approve. Can I get a second? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis, you are the next speaker. The floor is yours.
I researched the company a little bit, and I just want to know the minority participation.
You're a bit muffled, Mr. Lewis. Could you restate your question?
Well, I researched the company that we're giving a contract to, Unix Traffic, and I just wanted to know the minority participation on the contract because the company's just looking at the board and looking at some of the business they've done.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson, do you have any insight to that?
Yes, this project was through a GDOT co-op of this to provide these services. Siemens was originally they held the same contract with GDOT, and we did a cooperative piggyback of the contract. So the DBE and minority participation goals are set by the state, and if there are any modifications to it, then that would come through the Office of Procurement. But we use the same requirements as GDOT.
So I do know that since we're doing a citywide contract, and the state has a 1% minority participation rate statewide, and they make sure they keep it to that 1%. We don't get anything over 1% minority in the state of Georgia. That's why we've tried to make sure we give equal opportunity in the city of Atlanta. And so I know the council, we have a brand new council. I know we've been consistent in trying to make sure that there is minority participation.
So with this contract, if we're keeping up the state percentage of 1%, is that what we're saying?
I would say that for this contract, in order to get it moving forward, when we originally piggybacked with GDOT to be able to do this work. I am not certain how many DBE signal equipment companies there are, but I will tell you that we recently have bid 2 traffic signal and a fiber contract through open bid, and we received no bidders. And we've been bidding those, trying to get them bid for more than a year to get the work performed. And they were open bids that were open to anyone who wanted to submit. So in instances where we're trying to move projects forward, sometimes we will perform a cooperative piggyback of a state contract or another local government contract to be able to move the work forward. But our goal is always to have as much DBE participation as possible. But I don't know how many firms actually provide these services who are DBE or minority businesses, but we have opportunities available for them to bid on.
Okay, thank you. And I know I've heard that same argument before, and what we tried to look at to see if there's minority participation in the positions like lawyers, or there minority participation in the accountants that are on the deal, what the minority participation in other routes, because we do have firms in the city of Atlanta with minority owners that represent those fields. So I would like to, I'm cautioned to see the report to see if there's any minority participation, because you just said y'all couldn't find any for those fields, to see if there's any minority participation anywhere else in this contract.
And I actually didn't say we couldn't find them. I said we didn't get any bidders at all. So we didn't, even minority firms or majority firms, no one bid on our 2 recent contracts, which is typically the reason why we will exercise a co-op to be able to get these contracts brought to fruition. And circling back on the previous question of how many intersections we've completed, to date we've completed 48 intersections on this project.
Thank you, Ms. Fulton. And if on a second bit, if you could, not today necessarily, but if you could provide where those intersections are and what's in the pipeline, that would be helpful.
We can do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, I kind of jumped in there. Any further questions on your part?
No, that's it. Thank you.
I made a motion to approve earlier. Is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Thank you. Motion by Faroki, second by Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Wait, says aye.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 1 abstention. The item is favorable. Item number 21, 22R, 3236, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number FC 10641-109 for contract FC 10641M, job order contracting services with Rubio and Sons Interiors, Inc. for CF Common Space renovation at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on behalf of the Department of Aviation Asset Management in the amount not to exceed $248,734.47. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Smith, are you with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager, Department of Aviation. This one, we're taking advantage of one of the citywide small business corporations to do this work at the C4 complex. It's our emergency management facility. Recently, the fire department relocated from this area over to another building that the airport owns, And so we're renovating this space, the restrooms, and some of the office space. As you know, the emergency operations area houses our 911 operations.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I will move to approve. Could I get a second?
Antonio Lewis, second.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
One moment. The vote is open.
Wait is aye.
Will everyone please vote?
Westmoreland in favor.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 22, 22R 3237, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an agreement for IFBC 1220004 explosive detection system recapitalization and optimization Concourse E with Jervis B. Webb Company at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on behalf of the Department of Aviation in the amount not to exceed $54,092,287.11. All services will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department Organization account number listed herein and for the purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Smith, I believe we're going to hold this paper today while we wait for the IPRO report, but would you like to reflect on it?
Yes, Chairman, just to let you know, this is one of our critical papers. This one would allow us to replace the checked baggage inspection systems over at Concourse E. Of course, as you noticed, the explosive detection system. What we'll be doing is replacing 12 units that are reaching their end of life with 7 new higher efficiency units, which will increase the throughput for that service. It does, for your purposes, have minority participation of 15%. And as a goal, the contract is committed to 16.79% participation. And it will be a 2.5-year project, and we would like for approval once the IPRO is ready.
Terrific. I will move to hold. Can I get a second?
1 second.
Thank you, Mr. Wan. And Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
One moment. The vote is open.
Wait is aye.
As is Westmoreland.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. That takes, we already took action on item number 23. That takes us to item number 24. 22R 3239, a resolution by Transportation Committee to fund initial pre-construction services for Phase 3 for project number FC 8469, domestic terminal parking decks, reconstruction and replacement construction management at risk at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, with holder Austin Moody, a joint venture, an initial amount not to exceed $3,039,670.00. All services will be charged to and paid from the account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. Michael Smith, Department of Aviation. This agreement will allow us to have initial funding of Phase 3 of our parking deck replacement program. As you may know, we entered into this agreement, that's a 10-year agreement to replace our existing parking decks. As you know, we've had to do this in phases to allow for ongoing access to parking on airport. We began with the parking at ATL West. Haven't completed that. We've also completed under a separate contract the parking at ATL Select, which is on Sullivan Road. This will allow us to have construction of a third parking deck in the south economy area of the airport, and we will then start removing part of the south deck at a later time. So we're moving for approval. As you may also know, this contract does have significant minority participation of 17.5% African American and 13% female, and there are two primary minority companies that are part of the joint venture.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Could I get a motion and a second from the body?
Move approval, Juan.
Thank you, Mr. Juan. Is there a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Waits is aye.
Will everyone please vote? The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 2522R 3240, a resolution by Transportation Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a reimbursable agreement with Atlanta Airlines Terminal Company between the City of Atlanta and Signatory Airlines for the Vertical Transportation Modernization Phase 1 project at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport in the amount not to exceed $37,900,000.00 to be charged to and paid from the fund department account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Michael Smith, Deputy General Manager. Mr. Chairman and members, there are 141 elevators, 136 escalators, and 35 moving sidewalks in the Central Passenger Terminal Complex. This, under the airport's use and lease agreement with airlines, they have responsibility for the operation and maintenance of those facilities. This will allow us to reimburse them in the amount of $37,900,000 for phase 1 of modernization of the of about 38 escalators and moving sidewalks in the facility, and so we'll ask for approval.
And I will move to approve. Could I get a second?
Second, Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Waits is aye.
The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. And Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, there's two items I want to take up quickly. One is Commissioner Rowan from ATL DOT has joined us, and he has offered to speak briefly about the Baker Road pedestrian concerns that were articulated in public comment. So I would like to invite him to address Baker Road. Commissioner Rowan, are you with us?
There we go, Mr. Chair. Josh Rowan, Commissioner of Atlanta Department of Transportation. Really appreciated the calls and comments earlier. We as a department have actually started taking inventory of what we're calling these pesky cut-throughs. Baker Road is especially problematic when you look at how it essentially serves as a reliever to Highway 278. Recently, the department did an experiment in the Mosley Park neighborhood where we took a smaller cut through with Chickamauga Road and installed speed tables ourselves. And so that's what we're moving towards is initially how can we calm traffic and make some tactical improvements. The thing I would share when it comes to sidewalks is that's a more time-consuming process than I think people realize. Looking at Baker Road, based on where the utilities are located, I'm pretty certain we would have to acquire right-of-way. We would have to relocate the existing utilities. even if it were funded today to design it and do all of that work, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year process just for pre-construction. So in the near term, we want to continue to attack the speed. We're gonna continue to look at these as traffic calming targets, and then also for tactical improvements for the pedestrians. There appears to be sufficient width that we could use the pavement for walking, but the question that we're working on amongst ourselves is how do we better protect pedestrians more than just 4 inches of paint on the surface. So again, wanted to thank the callers for raising that concern, because that is an area that we're looking at. It's one we're going to be reaching out to the NPUs more to start getting a list of these cut-throughs that are becoming especially problematic, with the goal that the residents really take priority in these areas, not the traffic.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you popping in to give us an update. And I will pause if any questions from the body, and barring none, we'll be sure to follow up with you on Baker Road and have those conversations with the NPU and residents go, and what solutions y'all come up with. So, thank you. Before we close, I do want to recognize that today is the last day of Talia Moffitt, who has served as the City Council's Public Information Officer, and she's done a remarkable job for a number of years. I know for most of us, she's helped us put together all sorts of pitches and presentations to the media, and so I want to acknowledge her work on behalf of the City Council and wish her the best in her next endeavor. So thank you, Talia, for all you've done for us at City Council. Are there any comments or reflections from the body before we close out today? And then, assuming none and barring none, we'll close out. So the meeting is adjourned. Hope everyone has a terrific rest of the week. Thank you so much.